Gunner Podcast. Get up, it's the Steve Gunner Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Steve Gunter Podcast, where we discuss the steps, the strategies, and the mindset of real estate investing tailor-made for the pro athlete. I'm your host, Steve Gunter, and it's an honor and privilege to be with you today. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm with Linda Jokbengboon. Did I get it right?
Yes, great job.
Linda J for short. She's one of the founding agents of Compass Orlando, luxury real estate agent, investment specialist, member of the sports and entertainment division, and an all-around amazing person. Linda J, welcome to the pod.
I'm so excited to be here.
Linda, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. So, first question I have for you. You speak a few languages. How the heck did that happen?
Well, my family is from Laos. So, that was my first language growing up. That's what I learned. I learned how to speak English from watching TV. And then because I grew up partially in Florida and then the rest in North Carolina, I was just around a lot of Spanish speaking folks and things. Like I worked in the restaurant industry. So it was only natural for me to take Spanish in high school. And I did that for 4 years and then did it for another 2 years in college.
So you just picked it up too then? I mean, just by, being immersed in the environment. Exactly.
So what I would learn in school, I would then try to apply it in real life at the restaurants, So that's helped for sure. And then I can speak a little bit of Thai because it's very similar to Laotian.
Got it. That's pretty cool. I've always had this fascination of people that speak all of these different languages. And I'm like, man, that got to be the coolest thing ever because it like unlocks the door to several different worlds
it sure does.
That, you can't even understand unless you also speak the language.
Yep.
What about the foods though? I mean, are you a foodie?
Yes, very much so. If ever you come to Orlando, I've got you. I've got a lot of friends, a lot of clients in the restaurant industry. A lot of them have, won Michelin stars or got the nod for Michelin stars. So whatever your flavor is down here, I've got you.
I'm coming. Look, you talking food, I'm there. Absolutely there, man. I think that's awesome. Linda, really appreciate your time today. You are in a very interesting part of the world. You are in the Orlando, Florida market, and you have a deep reservoir of expertise in the investment space. But I'm particularly curious about short-term rental properties. Talk a little bit about that. What are you seeing down there in that market?
I'm seeing a shift, and I think that has a lot to do with kind of the negative publicity that's been going on in the short-term rental investment property world. First from, I would say, the changes in the regulations from coming from city ordinances allowing Airbnb. And then also, the negative publicity that Airbnb has been getting from vacationers and guests that are saying, I don't want to do a whole chore list when I go on vacation. You take those two things and you couple it with the market kind of returning to normal now outside of post-COVID and people being able to work and play from wherever. It's kind of shifted our market here a little bit. I think one of the things, though, that makes us stand apart is we have always been a short-term rental market, not like one of these small towns that sprung up during COVID that became little Airbnb towns where people decided to invest. And we've always been that because we are home based to the happiest place in the world, right? To Disney World. And that attracts millions and millions of visitors a year. We beat out visitors like the amount of people coming to the city, uh, New York, Las Vegas, Chicago, like we beat out all those cities, believe it or not, because of the attraction of Walt Disney World.
Yeah. I would imagine also the to the point of Disney World, the closer you get to Disney World, is it the more expensive the real estate?
Um, to a degree, right?
Okay.
Most, if you live in Orlando, you're usually not down in what we call like the tourist corridor or in tourist town, because the
Got it.
traffic down there is horrendous. You know, you've got a lot of out of towners not knowing where they're supposed to be going, missing the exit to get to Disney, or trying to find their way around, or you're amongst all of the kind of all the touristy shops and things like that. Um, so not necessarily. However, on the flip side, um, you do have some beautiful resorts that cater to that vacation lifestyle or the resort
Hmm.
lifestyle, to the short-term rental market, and or you're just a snowbird or a second homeowner. There are some beautiful resorts that cater to that, and the price can get pretty high. I've seen, we can get up to 3-4 million.
And I would imagine it's probably competitive too.
It
In
is.
the
It is.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
I mean, Disney World itself has a very exclusive community called Golden Oak, where one of our colleagues, our sports and entertainment colleagues, Matt McKee, sold an $11 million home in there.
Woo!
To yeah, to
I need to call Matt and
yeah,
ask him if he could take me to lunch.
yeah. So there, you have your luxury homes surrounding Disney, and then you have your exclusive enclaves that cater to that uber like high end Disney adult lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Going back to the short term rental market, I was talking with Eric Dungy a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking a little bit about kind of sort of the same sort of things that you were hinting at when it comes to the Airbnb, the VRBOs, how the municipalities are cracking down on those types of um, ways to do, to rent out your property. And he was like, you got to be really careful
Yeah.
about uh, about labeling your property as such. Is it just based on placing that property on the platform, or is it like rules like that says, hey, we don't want short-term rentals here, period?
So, fun fact, right? You get
Yeah.
an investor who sees the headlines that short-term rentals can make a great investment, and then they say, "Okay, I'll pick Orlando." And then they start venturing into areas outside of that Disney corridor. Well, fun fact, the city of Orlando actually doesn't allow for you to do short-term rental. You
Ah.
will get fined. You will get violations and liens placed on you if you are trying to do Airbnb in areas that don't allow it. So you're going to get hit by the city, number one, and then the second caveat is a majority, I would say a close 99%, within the general residential Orlando areas, the HOAs won't allow for you to do it. So they're going to have a
Mm.
minimum of a 7-month lease. They won't even allow seasonal, if you're outside of that corridor. So, somebody who's not knowledgeable about those
Hmm.
rules could potentially lead a client to making a huge, financial purchase,
Mm.
on an investment that they're trying to expect to get a return on that they can't even rent out, right? the,
Right.
the rule for that is you have to live in the property. If you're in proper Orlando, you have to live in the property for a minimum of 50% of the time to be able to Airbnb out any other part of the house, whether it be a room or an in-law suite, um, or an additional dwelling. Those are the only times you can Airbnb outside of that Disney corridor. So that's
Wow.
huge.
No, that's a great point. Good gosh. And I bet you there are a lot of people probably breaking that rule as we speak and don't
Yes.
realize that they are.
So I had a client call me the other day, and said, we don't want to be down by the Disney area. We want to we want to be closer into town, to, normal everyday Orlando, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, for that purpose, that's our primary purpose for the use of that property when we're here. And then when we're not here, we want to Airbnb it out. And I said, you can't. And they're like showing me all the listings that are coming
Mm-hmm.
up outside of that area. And I said, listen, any property manager you speak to is going to tell you the same thing, and they probably won't even pick up your business because they would be in violation. And I had to triple tell him, like, hey, I just want to warn you that you can buy this and you can attempt to Airbnb it out and you'll fly under the radar until you don't. But just remember that I told you this. I had to tell him multiple times, like full disclosure. And then finally he said, okay, we're gonna go forward anyways. And he finally spoke to two of the property managers I recommended, and they
Mm-hmm.
said, no, unfortunately, we're not able to help service you there because it's not allowed.
Wow, that is really great insight. You know, I will tell you that, and here in Raleigh,
Hmm.
they have slowly begun to kind of loosen up on some of those rules, but it not a whole lot. And I think because to the point that you made earlier, there has just been so many people throwing these crazy massive parties or doing just God knows what
Right.
for that particular little short period of time, and it just causes a disturbance.
Yep.
And it's like it's always the few, man,
Yep.
that just destroys it for everybody. But anyway, that's good to know. Thank goodness you and I are having this conversation now. And so for anyone who's listening to this and they're looking to do short-term rentals in Orlando, Florida, you might want to think about that a couple of times. Better yet, talk to Linda J. That's what you need to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So
like,
yeah.
I would hate to be a neighbor, right? Who owns a home in a beautiful neighborhood that has somebody Airbnbing their house out next door, and
Yeah.
you're just getting transient people day after day or week after week, that people don't care. When you're on vacation, you don't care.
Hmm.
You're super careless and living carefree, and you don't necessarily take care of the property or your surroundings as you would for your own property. I'm not saying that's true for everyone, but I think people are a little more careless when they're on vacation, and that just sucks to be the neighbor that's
Agreed.
there.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So I'm an investor. I'm looking to buy property in the Orlando market. Where are the opportunities for investors right now that you're noticing?
So I will say, the if we're not talking about short term, right? I think
Right.
Orlando still has a very strong rental market. Our the stats for our appreciation are still very strong as well. So it's a
Hmm.
great buy and hold, and have a renter get in there to carry your costs for you. I have found, though, because the interest rates, if you're not paying cash, I have found, though, that the interest rates, because they're so high right now or higher,
Yep.
um, I think the sweet spot is to be able to put 25 or 30% down for the time
Mm.
being,
Yep.
whereas before it used to be 15, 20%, right?
Yep.
But once you can clear that 25, 30%, um, opportunities are there for being able to buy and place a long-term renter in there for you.
Is there a price point that you're noticing that's having a lot more traction in the investor market, or or does that not apply for you guys a
Well,
little
I
bit?
I would say, so our median price point is around low to mid 400s here.
Yeah.
I think anything in that under 400K, that 350 mark, is getting pretty competitive. And that's going to be your starter home, your home that probably needs a little bit of work, but in the starter neighborhoods for first time buyers and/or prime for renters. That's probably
Yeah.
the price point that's moving fairly quickly.
Got it. I'm here with Linda J, luxury realtor in the Orlando, Florida market. Linda, what are some prime locations? Kind of switching gears a little bit. What are some prime locations that folks want to know about if they're looking to buy in Orlando?
So that's twofold, right? You've got your hot spots. Like, I think in Raleigh, you've got your, is it like Perhaps I'm wrong. Maybe Briar Creek, like that. No, that's not
Yeah,
wrong.
that's a hot spot. That's a hot
Yeah.
spot. Yeah.
So you have your catchphrases like that. So for example, your Windermere's, your Winter Park, Windermere where Tiger Woods lived.
Yeah.
Your Winter Parks, your Lake Nona, um, Winter Garden over like on the New Horizon side, and then spreading down into St. Cloud and Sunbridge. Those are all kind of your hot spots, right? Your
Mm.
hot spots slash staples for Orlando. But what I have found is land is getting scarce.
Yes. Hmm.
So everything is starting to move out to the outskirts. Um, and I think that if you have the ability to see to have the foresight to be able to invest without seeing all of the infrastructure there yet,
Yep.
I think that's where your best areas for growth are going to be, and appreciation, like your Tavares, Eustis, kind of your Mount Verde area,
Mm.
going to the west, and then to the south would be your St. Clouds, that Sunbridge area, um, Meridian Park. So everything that's basically on the outskirts, that's going to take you about 35 minutes to really get into the city. Those are going to be, I think, the best areas, in my opinion.
Is there a particular builder or a couple of builders that you would say, hey, these are the guys who are building a pretty nice product in some of these locations. You probably want to check them out.
You, oop, there goes the automatic lights. Your big
I
box
do the
store.
same thing. It's like it just goes off on me. I'm like, and
And then
you watch
I'll be
any of the
like,
podcasts, it's like I'm always like this. It's like
um, we have a good group of just your national builders in town.
sure.
So your Pulte's, your Centexes, your Lennars,
Yeah.
your DR Hortons. I would say DR Horton probably builds the best entry level product.
Okay.
Those would be great to get into to get in at a lower price point and then be able to rent it out.
Hmm.
Um, but the finishes may be very basic, right? But it's still a brand new home. And then you go all the way up to your custom builders, but those would be more on the luxury end.
Well, let's talk luxury, by the way. Everybody likes to talk luxury. So, any of those locations that you just mentioned, are any of those areas more specific to the luxury market than perhaps some of the others?
Um, I mean, definitely Windermere and Winter Park. That's
And,
probably
and where does your luxury what price point does your luxury market start in? I think we should start at least there.
so from I think a Compass standpoint, by their definition, I think it's 2 million.
Okay.
So for us here, you're probably starting at about a 1.5 and up.
Hmm.
Um, and to be honest, though, the prices have kind of appreciated so drastically that what you think you would get for $1 million home, what you
Hmm.
think in your mind
Yep.
is now probably 2.5 million.
Yep. I see
You're
where you're
thinking an
going.
estate, large home site with, gates and large tall ceilings and large rooms. That's not the case anymore for $1 million.
Hmm.
Yeah. What is it up
Last
there?
here you're the luxury market in Raleigh is going to start right around that 2 million mark. Um, you could occasionally find something around a million. And when I say luxury, and I want to be specific, um, you're talking about the kitchen with all of the master upgrades,
Yeah.
to include the woof appliances and the crown molding and the detail of the finishes are such that people are like, yes,
Yeah.
this looks good, because there are now $1 million production builds.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, it's interesting. It really is. It's I remember when I first got into business, Linda, and I've been in the business going on 15 years. And at the time, Raleigh's average sales price was like like 225, 230 or something.
Yeah.
Man, I was selling like $150,000 houses all day. It was like, like this 150,000. I was
Right,
like, this
right.
is great, you know? And the $1 million product at that time was rare. My early years, I didn't sell anything like
Same.
that.
Same.
Yeah. And today it is different. Like $1 million product is like, you might get a call and the buyer's like, I want $1 million, I'm spending $1 million. I understand, and I'm not saying that, you know,
Eh,
you should not want all the
Right,
things that you want in it. However, you're going to have to look out here a little bit.
right.
And I would imagine you guys are probably seeing something similar.
Very similar. And people get a little upset. Like, I can't believe this costs $1 million and I still have to come in here and probably do $200,000 worth of work.
Hmm.
Um, or it's tiny, or it doesn't have the finishes. You are absolutely correct. It is pretty sticker shock. I had a client come in from he owns a home in Nashville,
Hmm.
and
That's
he's
a
like, oh
pretty
yeah,
market I hear. I've never been
beautiful.
actually. Yeah.
His home is, he spends half the year there and half the year in Florida, and he has a beautiful traditional log looking cabin home, luxury on the top of a mountain overlooking the lake.
Oh,
um,
nice.
so he's like, my budget's about 1.5 million. That should be plenty.
Hmm.
And we had to stretch up to almost 2 million to really find what he wanted. Just because at the time also inventory was tight about a year
Hmm.
ago, but still for what you were getting, it wasn't what you thought you were getting.
I got a question. How important are pools for the Florida market?
So if we're talking short-term rentals,
No,
100%,
just okay. Okay. I'm
100%.
saying just period. Like I'm just saying period.
You'll be surprised. I would say 50% of the people, no, I would say maybe 40% of the people are like, I need to have a pool.
Yeah.
But the other 60% are like, it's extra utility bills,
Ah.
especially if you have a heater,
Yep.
that costs extra money to heat the pool. And then you've got to maintain it every
In
week.
Florida, hot enough?
Listen, but in January it gets down to 30, 40, 50.
Does it really?
Yes.
Oh,
For
I
like
ain't been
maybe
to
two
Florida in a
weeks.
while.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Um,
For two
but
weeks. Oh, that is just miserable.
but the it's the liability also,
Sure.
especially if you have an investment property. I
Yep.
tend to have my investors not buy properties with pools just because of the extra layer of liability it adds. And the other
Ah.
thing is a majority of these communities that you're buying in have community pools. So why not just use the community pool and not have to take care of a pool of your own?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I get it. I get it. Um, I was reading an article recently. Um, I think it was in the Orlando Business Journal, in fact, and it was talking about how listings rose about. I I wonder if this is true. 46% was the number that they said. How did listings rise by 46% between December to January? And it was suggesting that it is more of a buyer's market in Orlando right now. Is that true? Do you guys have more inventory on the market than demand?
I think that the properties, I think that there's still not enough inventory.
Okay.
I think we're sitting
That's what I
at,
was thinking because I've been hearing more people say across the country that there's less inventory than
100%.
to meet demand.
Now, I will say there's probably more homes coming on the market today than there were 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
Good.
Um, I think that the sellers are starting to sense that buyers are becoming comfortable or have
Hmm.
accepted what the interest rates are hovering at now, which is around, let's just say 6.5, 6.75%.
Right. Right.
Um, and they've gotten tired of waiting. So they've come back out into the market. And with that, the sellers are realizing, okay, I think we are still in an okay position to go ahead and list and sell. Um, I will say that the sellers who are still overpricing are likely sitting. You know,
Yep.
I would say that the sellers that are listening to their agents and are
Mm-hmm.
pricing well are starting to now get multiple offers again.
Yep.
I had a listing to go live last week, and we were priced on the high end of what it's worth, and we got 3 offers come Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like 11, 12, 13, 14 offers, but we're starting to see the good ones will go quickly if they're priced well and they show well.
It's been a long time since we've had to have conversations about price reductions with sellers, right? You know, I can remember this is like Linda, like 2011, 2012 or something like that. And man, we had mad short sales on the market.
Oh yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any better. I mean, I'm freshly new to the business, and for the agents who had been in the business in 2005, 2006, they were just like, oh my gosh, nothing is selling and all of these sorts of
Right.
things. And I was frequently having price reduction conversations with sellers, and I remember doing that up until about here maybe 2014, 2015ish. and
Wow.
then and then there was a turn in the market all of a sudden. I mean, we had a long ride, Linda. Like,
Yeah.
we had a really long ride where sellers were getting what they wanted and more. And I'm pretty sure you remember 2020, 2021. It was
Yeah.
like you put anything on the market. It
Wild.
didn't matter what went on the market.
Yeah.
It was going to go, and it was going to go for high,
Yep.
much more. But now we're starting to have some of those conversations with the sellers who have been stubborn
Yep.
about their price. They feel that their home is worth X, and they're using inventory from 8 months ago or whatever it may be. And it's like, guys, it's actually a different market.
Yep.
You can't use that inventory anymore. This is what we're seeing today. What are, for the sellers that you do have who may be struggling to come to grips with where they need to be priced at today, what does that conversation look like?
So for me,
Yeah.
I am I like to consider myself a straight shooter, right? I don't like fluffing. I don't like over overselling and under delivering. I like to really set realistic expectations up front.
Mhm.
So if I encounter a seller who says, "Hey, my house is worth 800,000, but the comps are really only supporting 750," um, there's some schools of thought that say you should walk away from that listing. I don't think I'll ever walk away from a listing like that.
Mhm.
I will still take it, but I will have a very candid conversation with the client and say, listen, I'd be happy to start it here, but the market will tell us very quickly where we're at. We're
Mhm.
either going to get a plethora of showings and a plethora of offers, or we're going to get no showings and no offers, or we're going to get showings because it's brand new to the market and we're not going to get any offers. That's going to tell us what we need to know. So in those instances, I like to set the expectation up front that, hey, I'm willing to give it a shot for you, even though the comps say otherwise. But if it doesn't work and the market is giving us the feedback, then built into our agreement, we're going to do some price reductions and do it accordingly. Um, and I think that if you set that expectation up front,
Mhm.
and not just tell them what they want to hear, I think people in the long run will appreciate that more than you saying, "Oh yeah, I'll get you that 800," and then you list it, and then 3 weeks or 3 months later, they're like, "Linda, why haven't you done your job?" Right? And I was like,
Mhm.
I told you up front what to expect.
Mhm.
So, um, for me, it's all about just setting the right expectations up front and giving it a go, but then really listening to the feedback and what the market is telling you.
You also, in your business, work with pro athletes and entertainers. What are some of the insights you try to give to those guys as you're chatting with them about um, purchasing a property, and what are some of the things they should be considering as they're going through the process of perhaps owning real estate?
So I've had them across the board, right? Um, a lot of them, I've had a lot of the players on the Magic, and then there have been handful of wrestlers with NXT and WWE.
I didn't know that. That's sweet.
Yeah, we have a, I wasn't much of a wrestling fan, but
Yeah.
I had to get into it real quick so I could relate. Um,
So I'm sorry, not the I have to we have to put a pin here for a moment. So
okay,
I remember Linda growing up, and I'm like a guy's guy. I mean, at the time it was WWF. And I
see,
remember, I
World
remember,
Wrestling Federation, right?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, there you go. I
See,
remember watching Shawn Michaels, the Ultimate Warrior, um, Andre the Giant. I mean,
yeah,
the Undertaker. And
yes.
I couldn't wait for WrestleMania. I couldn't wait. And I would have, my chips and all of this stuff, like my junk food, ready to watch it. And so it's just cool that that you've done it. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So we have a NXT, which is, I guess, the minor leagues, right? If
Okay.
I'm not mistaken,
I don't know.
NXT has a big training facility here.
Okay.
So all of the wrestlers will train here. This is their hub, um, and it's like the mini WWE. So they actually perform, or not perform, but they actually like there are matches and things that they do here locally, and with the hopes of them bumping up to the major leagues, to WWE. So
Mm.
one of my clients is actually, he was second under, man, I'm gonna mess this up.
Hmm.
I don't know. I can't remember his name, but it was a head guy,
Okay.
not Ed McMahon, not Ed
Uh-huh.
McMahon, not that. It's not Vince McMahon.
It was like one of the athletes. He was like,
He was
what?
a writer, so
He was a writer.
yeah.
Okay.
He basically wrote all the scripts for
Got it.
NXT. Still does.
Oh wow.
So yes, so I worked with a couple of them across the board. Some of them are different in different stages of life, but
Mm-hmm.
it's when I get the athlete client that wants to spend $8,000 or $9,000 or $10,000 on rent
Right.
that
Right.
like makes my heart cringe, because if they just put $50,000 down
Mm-hmm.
on a very similar house, they could get a mortgage for less than what they're paying in rent, and it
Mm.
was really hard
Yep.
to kind of educate the clients on that thought process, because you have people around them telling them, oh, this chick is just trying to get you to spend money, or she's just trying to make a quick paycheck. No, I'm trying to show you the difference between what you're paying in rent and what your expenditure is on making an investment. Even if you get traded and
Mm-hmm.
you have to sell, or because you decide not to hold it or rent it, even if you get traded and you sell and you break even, you're at least getting
Mm-hmm.
what you would have spent in rent back.
Yeah.
Whereas in rent, you don't ever see that back again.
And
So for
as an agent, when you're selling your customer a home, you're also thinking about the flip side of that coin when they have to go and sell. So you're, I would imagine, frequently thinking, okay, how difficult is it going to be to sell this darn thing? And having that conversation so that they also understand, look, yeah, we're buying this home, but I want to also make sure that we could sell it and sell it for a good number. You know what I'm saying?
right,
So
right,
it hopefully gives them the insight that, we're here to help you make some money, man.
or to help you not lose money, or to help your money
Mm-hmm.
make more money for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and then like I take a lot of pride in you know really doing my job, right? Really
Right.
educating. I had I had a client who was on the team, and he'd been here for a couple of years, and he was like, Linda, I think it makes sense for me to buy a place. And even though his team was telling him to not buy, right? They don't know what's going to happen. Don't spend the money. But I laid it out for them and I explained to them, look, here are the pros and cons. Here's your cost. Here are the comps to show you that I'm not just picking a number out of the air of what you should be offering. Here's the evidence of why you should offer this or that. This is a strategy behind it. And he ended up getting traded before it happened to be during the inspection period. But they then he ended up going back to his home base in Indiana, and he ended up buying there because I was home for him. But he was like, look, Linda, my agent up here, she's not explaining anything to me. They're like cross-referencing everything back with me. And they're like, at the end of it, we know you're not our agent here, but we just feel more comfortable because you're willing to explain and educate. And I think that's a large part of it, for that, so that when you go through this the next time, you're going to know what to look out for. And I think that's the biggest value that we can provide to somebody who you can't.
Yeah.
It's like $1 bajillion, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got a wild card for you. I noticed that your degree is in political science. So when are you running for office, and would you like to actually make a formal announcement here on the pod?
No. No. I thought at one point in my life I wanted to be a lawyer. So
I could totally see that.
That's what I did for undergrad until I saw how small the fine print was in those law books. And I said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I got into real estate because I was like, I want to do something that is going to make me good money, that, unlimited potential, whatever I put into it. But that doesn't put me behind a desk and it's monotonous and a day to day. So thank God I found this career right outside of college.
Yeah.
And I landed in where I'm meant to be right out. I didn't have to go through multiple career changes. So it's pretty cool.
So we're not running for mayor or something like that.
No.
Okay. All right.
I don't think I could deal with the bureaucracy. I just couldn't. Could you?
I had to try. No. I love this. This is what I like to do. Yeah. Not a chance, man. Not a chance. I know some people within our organization that could, but definitely
there's a lot
not
of
me.
politicking.
Definitely. So for those looking to get into the market right now, what are some things that you recommend that they start to do?
So let's talk about short-term rental perspective, right?
Okay.
I think I can't speak of any other market, but I think that it's a prime opportunity for somebody to take advantage of what's happening in the market, in the short-term rental market right now. We do have an influx of inventory. And I think it has to do with a couple of things. It has to do with timing. A lot of your top communities that I would recommend purchasing in that have shown great returns are starting to hit that 4 and 5 year mark. And when you hit that mark, a lot of those owners are now needing to give the property a facelift again, right? Because in short-term rental properties, they go through a lot of beatings, like a lot of heavy wear and tear. So by the time you hit that 4 or 5 year mark, you need to update furniture. You need to give it a facelift. And those owners may have already gotten what they need to get out of that investment, and they're trying to offload. So you have those sellers. You also have sellers of the people that hopped on during the COVID train when they thought, buying an Airbnb is the thing that you need to do. And now with, like I said, the negative publicity from like cities like New York City, where the ordinances are shutting down Airbnb, or the negative publicity that they're hearing about just, people having to do their chores and having to take out the trash and pull sheets. Those amateur investors are getting spooked. So they're getting out of the market. The numbers that they were getting during COVID, at least in Florida, are now returned to a normal occupancy percentage. So those people are getting spooked. So now you have that coupled with just a normal amount of people that are trying to get in and out of the market. There's an influx of inventory. And there's a lot of competition. So from a buyer standpoint in the short-term market in Orlando, I think it's an excellent opportunity for you to go in and kind of be aggressive with your offers and get a steal because the sellers are desperate because there's 5 other homes next to them that look exactly like theirs that are also on the market.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. Linda J. Wow, what a wealth of information you have in that wonderful brain of yours, man. That's awesome. That is awesome. Any lasting remarks that you have?
Airbnb I still think is very strong in Orlando. You just got to make sure that the numbers work. You got to get with an agent like myself that can kind of guide you and give you all the tools for you to make an educated decision. But once you do that, I think if you have realistic expectations, I think that it's still a great investment here in Orlando specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm coming down for the food, man.
I'm ready. Food
we're
and
connected.
drink.
We're doing it.
Our office here in Winter Park, we're heavy drinkers, so we're taking shots all the time. So get ready for the tequila shots and the good food to go with it.
And Linda, I'm a total lightweight, man. So
my
God! After one, I'm going to be like,
stop.
Where's my bed?
Stop it right now. No.
Linda J, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you.
Appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you in Naples.
We'll see you there.
Bye.
Can't stop, we can't lose, you can't win if you snooze. So do more and say less. So get up and let's work and be the best. Yeah, you're tuned in to the Steve Gunner Podcast. Yeah, the Steve Gunner Podcast. You're tuned in to the Steve Gunner Podcast.